Good morning to you, my friends, wherever you may be in the world today. Clements here from Blessed Ubud, Bali, Indonesia. July 2nd, 2023. From my heart to yours, thank you for tuning in. A bit of an adjustment today. There's a wedding going on here in this sacred temple, and we're in the midst of saturating our beloved earth with water and rain. And if you can hang with me in this maddening, miraculous ambient moment of motorcycles and traffic and tourism and people and life and wars and genocide and love and babies and embryos and goddesses and gods and Satan and coercion and all the ways in which we find ourselves struggling to be human, right? Struggling to be human. That's the task for me of my life, is how to overcome the obstacles, the challenges of the littlest of things: obedience to false narratives, conformity to limiting ways of inhabiting my being in this preciousness of a life. And equally, the rising up, right? The rising up of an interior courage, an etiquette of ongoing diligence. And not to be overly positive, but for lack of better terms this morning, the best ongoing expression of your being, my being. Call it authenticity with integrity and loyalty to principles and values. You know, who's going to be on that mountainside with you, with me, with us, our babies, our lovers, that holds our hands, that puts a bandage around our deep eternal wound of fear and insecurity? How many people I've known, even in this last week in Burma, my beloved spiritual country of Myanmar, my friend and ally who's living in solitary confinement, Aung San Suu Kyi, the Nobel laureate, the modern day epic evil woman, to put it straight, the collective witch burning attributed to her as this inability to manifest radical, patriarchal, compromising values on the terms of corporate media and global lies. Well, her birthday, 77 years old or 78, and she's known for wearing flowers in her hair, among many other qualities. I'm going to get into this today in this short talk. And so the women in the country, as an act of alliance with reconciliation, theme today I want to spend some time with, and the power of, I'm a man, but the power of the feminine, reconciliation, unity, tolerance, dialogue over destruction, the heart over the fist, that kind of thing. Well, they decided in the midst of this genocide, a genocide of democracy. I mean, could I have enough fire and passion in my blood to even communicate the evidence of the word genocide here in the comfort of Ubud, 3,000 miles from the blood and the pain and the anguish of the incarceration, the rape of a nation, 50 fucking million people incarcerated against their will, but they're fighting up. These women wore flowers in their hair. They called it the flower strike. How rad is that, right? Just pause. What can we do today to strike, to show dissent to the man, the Biden, the Trumps, the Macrons, the Trudeaus, the Schwabs, right? What can we do today to disengage from the lie, right? I want to talk about deep listening and how to interrupt the conformity to false narratives, bullshit, totalitarian structures that we've inherited, dictatorship that we've been ingesting called freedom and democracy, right? Look at the lies that we've been living. Look at the lies that we've been fed and how we're coming unmoored from those false narratives, right? How cool is that? But in Burma, they wore flowers in their hair. The women, 12-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 9-year-olds came out of their home and they walked. They didn't march, they just walked. They wore flowers in their hair. Some of them in groups of 3, 4, 5, 10. And as a result, the gulag in Burma The Ming Online, the MAH, known as Burma's Pol Pot, his Stalin, the Hitler of Burma, the world's leading terrorist, the #1 criminal terrorist in the world, has occupied satanically the beloved country of 50 million people in Burma, the home of the lay meditation mindfulness movement. For God's sake, if you're into mindfulness, guess where it came from? The Buddhist teaching, but the inhabitor and the protector of that teaching for 2,600 years has primarily been South Asian countries and intrinsically in Myanmar, Burma. And so these women walk the streets with flowers in their hair, and the running dogs of the dictator, what did they do? Arrested them without trial, no justice, and they put them in prison for 3 years in chains and leg irons in hard labor. And I thought to myself, oh my God, how is that humanly possible that we coexist in a world, and that's just one area of the world, to state the obvious. It's on every city block. Wars punctuate human memory and the history of human beings on this precious globe. Where hasn't there been death and blood and torture and rape? And equally, yes, I know, there's the radiance of love and beauty and hand-holding and babies and intimacy and eroticism and trans-tantra moments of kissing goddesses and gods and the sanctity of your own peace. Even in prison cells, people still know how to keep beauty alive. I've seen them. I've interviewed them. You know them. Perhaps you're a former political prisoner. My God, if this would actually get into the prison cells and to give hope. But these girls got arrested and incarcerated, and it blew my heart open. And even more, even today I was reading, where those who filmed the women, the girls, being arrested by the running dogs of the dictator, just think of the mind state of incarcerating family members. I wouldn't even be surprised, and it's been known to happen around the world, where you arrest even your own daughter because your indoctrination and your loyalty to evil is so entrenched in the dark soil of your own consciousness. I'm not one for vilifying, but I can lose it in my sacred rage, to use a term that's frequently used, and to try to understand where these forces of interior complexity, if not evil, originate, and how can I interrupt them even more so than where they come from. To study the machinations of existential psychiatry through the filter of hyper intimate psychedelics. I don't mean the psychedelic of just psilocybin or ketamine or acid or iboga or any of the other substances, the DMTs, the MEOs, whatever. It's more of the metaphor of heightened awareness of things that we normally don't see. And if you need to dose to see them, do it. And do it until you see and you feel and breathe it as the essential awakening from these outrageous configurations that we've inherited from some unknown source called totality. The why and the where and the origins are beyond us, to state the obvious. But we can see them in our own psyche, right? We can see them in our own mind, the impulses to love and the impulsation to denigrate. That study is the vocation of a trans-religious Dhamma, the Dharma art of awakening to the true nature of how we configure inside, unknowingly and knowingly, to overcome denigrating forces and to elevate the good, the true, and the beautiful. That's my idea of the Dhamma life, the Dharma life, the trans-spiritual life. In Burma, they arrested these girls. And the girls and the men who photographed and did videos of them and posted them on social media. They tracked them to their homes, and without trial, those who even posted images of the arrests. 3 years, hard labor, for defying the justice of a satanic cult called dictatorship that's posing as freedom and democracy in the upholder of universal human rights. The ultimate satanic perversity, supported by none other, bless his heart, Mr. Putin, and bless his heart, Xi Jinping of China. Through weaponry, through technology, through loot, and through the capture of another being's conscience and the cronies that support in Burma that conscience, or the lack thereof, through money, profit, privilege, welcome to capitalism, totalitarianism, patriarchy, and toxic, deep colonialization of consciousness. That configuration, that constellation is to me Satan. Not a man or a woman or a source, but that constellation of configuration, those psychologies, those emotionalities, and whatever binds those mind states together, the fabric within the invisibility of the mind. Call it, what is it? Grasping. What is the state of mind that's contracting my hand right now? I want. I want to make you wrong. I want to make you wrong. I want to harm you because you violate the sanctity of my idea of peace. Whatever that state of consciousness is, that's my point. I'm not trying to vilify and state the obvious. I'm not a news outlet to state news wrongly, but I'm a real trying to be humble, crazy, mad human to understand the machinations of what my mind is doing to want to contract around a false narrative, a distortion, misinformation taken to be gospel, denial felt to be safety, deception with the feeling that the eyes are wide open. That interior distortion, the study of deep interiority, that requires what I call MQ, mindful intelligence, much more than mindfulness. Even an assassin can pull a bullet without questioning and shoot the enemy and call it whatever you want. But to question that person as the believed enemy, as Julian Assange pointed out, you need to require critical thinking, obviously stating the obvious, but how do you understand the emotionality, the invisibility, the intelligence of critical thinking, discernment, deep inquiry, ethical self-doubt, E-S-D, ethical self-doubt. If we could put that into a gelatin capsule and put it into the mind of Klaus Schwab, Macron, Trudeau, Biden, ethical self-doubt. Here, open up your mouth, let Dr. Jill hold sacred space with you, shaman woman, and let me see you awaken to a deeper relationship to conscience within your own substratum that sees reality rightly and doesn't vilify people who are actually could be friends and allies. Pause. I don't know how else to be spontaneous except to be spontaneous. And sometimes it's cool and calm and all those kind of things that I pledge the allegiance to never want to do. And sometimes it just comes out real, which is authentic, and let's get down. I don't have a form in how we should look, but these totalitarian so-called, I love pigs, I don't eat ham, but these totalitarian gulagian pigs, namely guys with schlongs that they put in their mouths, that'd be a better occupation than the president who kills forever war, Mr. Biden. Yes, let's lose it, because we're losing the sanctity of love and grace and compassion. We're dying on the hill as these perverts kill the planet with forever wars in the name of profit. Graveyards filled with the moaning and the groaning and the delicious salivating of men in uniforms in their coffins, counting their money in the dreams of their own artificial intelligence. Welcome to the future of the earth, right? Where is this sci-fi sickness going to lead us if we don't interrupt it with everyone getting on your own stage through whatever social media, anti-social media, your own theatrical expression of Dharma art, sacred, spiritual, poetic, trans, erotic art. Lose it on the stage front of your inability to be in conformity with the machinations of denigration. Learn to speak from your soul in inarticulate expressions of formations that interrupt your own unrecognized conformity to denigration, to self and others, right? We need to lose it. This is a self-therapeutic catharsis. I wish I was doing some form of psilocybin today, and I very well might. Metaphorically and realistically, if I breathe into the innate psychedelic of my own denied transformational mind manifesting luminosity, to see the constellation, when I look at the sky of my own identity, and I'm out there looking at the sky, and I'm looking at the sky, and I'm going like, through my own habitual conditioning of labeling, there's Taurus, and there's Aquarius, and Taurus is looking down at me and saying, hey guy, there ain't no bull in the sky, that's called BS. It's projection. Anyone who's done a psychedelic realizes, oh my God, the OMG moment of realizing that what you think you knew is in fact a projection. The study of projection, the felt embodied relationship to the integrity of reclaiming projection is the home of self-responsible sacred presence. So easy, that equation, to come home into the resonance of your own awakened MQ. My Dhamma mindful intelligence is willing to look at the more troublesome aspects of my own unrecognized psyche, substratum, and deeper than DNA, at the confluence of interiority through perception. And that's what the psychedelic does. It brings us home to look at what we often don't see, including the sanctity of self-love. Cliched as it is, I'm sure all these men and women in power, it's just the absence of knowing what it means to be intimately touched. Get naked, dude. Let Jill touch you with sacred one-way touch. Okay? You don't have to move, you don't have to come, you don't have to moan, you don't have to groan. Just let your wife touch you. Rub her naked body on your armored skin. And cry in the sacred feminine of a one-way esoteric, existential, intimate, sacred moment of vulnerable open-heartedness. And call off the forever war of denial and deception and the murder and the sanctity of love. Keep that love alive. Call off the death of the planet. Call off Armageddon. Call off nuclear war. Call off the onslaught of AI. Call it off. We cannot act more courageously today than the way in which we come out of the shell of our own denial. Feel the voice, the power, the gift, while you still have it, Alan, to use your voice, as difficult as it is, to use your consciousness, to use your senses, to use social media and video and audio and technology to communicate the evidence of your own maddening, miraculous awakening through the minefields of ego and pride and deception and harm. Reconcile, reconcile, include, unify. Reconcile, reconcile, unify, include. That's a much more refined element of mindfulness today than just looking at phenomenology coming and going in any way. Insight, interiority, feel, emote, cry, sanctify, do the psychedelic every day, micro, less and less, until you live and inhabit a psychedelic presence that basically says, I refuse to participate in the lie of my own denial, Mr. Biden, Mr. Xi Jinping, Mr. Putin. We don't want to cry and weep and hurt anymore. We want to use the power of our voice, our song, our music, our poetry, our writing, our bodies, our everything. So as I come to the beginning of the end today, of the end of the beginning, I don't know that we can ever say enough about calling off the death of life, calling off Armageddon, calling off the word nuclear, calling off, not a war, it's nuclear idiocy, it's nuclear insanity, AI insanity, nuclear insanity, biotech insanity, patriarchal insanity, dictatorial insanity, totalitarian insanity incorporated, digital fascism insanity, mogul insanity, hyper-wealth insanity, the release of 10 gazillion genetically modified mosquitoes, Gatesian insanity. The insanity of this hyper-righteousness of the onslaught of satanic civilization in the name of capitalism, of freedom of conscience, of universal human rights, of democracy. All these aberrations and misuse of labels when they're motivated by greed, by anger, by stupidity, ignorance, the statue of unliberation, the statue of ignorance cannot be built high enough in the sky of the world today. And everyone sits in reverential awe of their own unreclaimed allegiance to delusion. What do we need to do to stop worshiping darkness and evil and Satan in the name of light? The contrast could not be any more clear. Incarcerating young girls for wearing flowers in their hair because they cannot abide by the satanic cult of totalitarian democracy. Think of that aberration of consciousness. Think of that. And it's all around the world today. Everywhere we look and see and feel and smell and taste and touch, the perversity of mislabeling freedom, democracy, trust, unity. The word bastardization doesn't even apply. Those who see can see, and those who don't seem to want to see, and they crucify and vilify, criminalize those who see. And so what do we do except to keep seeing more clearly how we don't see, deeper and deeper listening, right? I'm going to conclude here. Deeper and deeper listening to that which we feel is the edge of our own confluence with vilification. Among the many things that I learned from the people of Burma in their revolution of freedom, among the many things that I learned from the founders of the democracy movement in modern times, U Tinu, U Chi Mung, U Win Taine, U Win Tin, Da Aung San Suu Kyi, so many of the 88 open generation, so many. They learned the power of reconciliation. Look at that edge of your own interiority of where you collude with your own denial. Don't demonize, don't vilify, don't judge, don't blame. And if you see it, quiver. Quiver in the mindful awakening of reducing yourself to the edge of your own interiority, and feel and let go. 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 Let go of your collusion with denigration. Let go. In Burma, that was the whole notion of reconciliation. The reconciliation of the spirit. Let me transform denigration into love, into freedom, into truth, into safety, into unity, into peace, into true civilized coexistence. If we don't have a revolution of the spirit, if we don't feel our own edge of how we collude with denial and fear and ignorance, how could we ever learn to walk our talk in civilization? It's one thing to totally condemn what people don't see, but it's another thing altogether to live in the sanctity of one's own interior peace and to say, hey, listen, brother, hey, sister, let's find some common ground here. Let's talk about our differences in a way of unifying and coming together in the freedom of disagreement. Women know that. And so I'm going to conclude today as the ambient sound has taken my voice, talk and rain and the din of violence. And thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for being a part of my life. And thank you for supporting the rage in all of us today that says no to ignorance, no to violence, and no to denigration, and no to the future of violence. Let us commit to peace, unity, the elegance of reverential disagreement. Let us consent to take off the armor, clothes, skin, pretenses of our denial, our deception, our insensitivity to human touch, to the touch of nature. Just dose up, get naked, and lie in the rain and see what it feels to let Goddess reign upon your being without the need to protect yourself from goddesses and nature and love and truth. Feel the art of feeling vulnerability. That to me is the greatest kept secret of the universe. And therein lies the possibility of the restoration in my life of sacred. The sacredness to live, to breathe, to die in the formation of radical, intimate, peaceful, non-violent, maddening love. The madness of dignity. The virtue of a peace that encompasses even the enemy, within and outside. Let reconciliation radiate throughout this universe, and may peace become the operative meme throughout all hearts, animals, trees, gods, sons, man. So from my heart to yours, thank you for tuning in, and God willing, we'll see each other soon. Thank you.